Welcome to Victory or Death, the podcast for content creators. My name is Elijah McDougall, and these are my co-hosts, Dan Dorn of The Mildly Morose Man,
Hello.
and Garrick Wheeler of Garrick Wheeler.
Hello.
All right. So, today we are starting off this lovely podcast for the first time. So if you're listening, this is the original rodeo for us. So thank you for being here. And thank you to both of you for being here as well. It's a big deal and important to me. So thank you for lending me your voices.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yep. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. So today we're going to talk about Garrick Wheeler and his channel. He is about 3 years into it, and he's got about 4.3 thousand subscribers. So
Yep.
a pretty decently big base. So let's just start off. How did you get into YouTubing? Like, how did you start?
Well, okay, so I started playing the guitar in about 2009, and that was just, a for fun sort of thing. And then about 2 years into playing guitar, I started thinking, well, maybe I should upload videos to YouTube. And so I started doing that, and it was just normal covers of like whatever song I was into at the time. And then as I kept progressing in the instrument, I sort of thought, well, maybe I should like sort of make this my own thing rather than just me covering, like Metallica and Megadeth and Trivium songs. So then I thought, well, okay, well, if I did do something more original-ish, what would I do? And this was right around the time that, Kingdom Hearts 3 had just gotten announced. So, of course, hype was, at its peak back then. And I thought, well, that's my favorite thing pretty much ever. So why don't I, at least do, I don't know, maybe one or two songs from that series. And so that started the interest in sort of taking YouTube more seriously, because before it was just, I would just sit down, have like a single shot with a webcam. I didn't really care about the production quality or anything. It was just make a video, put it on YouTube. No one would really watch it, but I would feel warm and fuzzy inside. So that's when I started to take it a little more seriously, was about, a couple years after starting it up. But it was mainly just for fun until I started thinking, why don't I at least give it a shot to try and take it a little more seriously? But yeah, it was my excitement for this game that sort of I guess inspired me to sort of try and do something more with it, just because I was so excited about it. But yeah,
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I think, so I started guitar in 2009, and then by 2011, I uploaded my first video to YouTube, and then by 2016 was when, like, I actually started to make what I would consider, like, my own real content. So I was on YouTube for quite a while before anything of substance really came about, but a lot of that had to do with just me taking it more seriously. So there's that too.
All right, yeah. So humble beginnings, right? And
Right.
so how did you kind of get to the point where you decided that you wanted to do it as more than just a for fun thing? I mean, I'm sure you're still doing it for fun, but it seems like with that big of a base, it's something that you consider a little bit more viable.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't really pinpoint the exact moment necessarily, but I do remember. So originally what was going to happen was when I decided maybe I should attempt to do something a little more serious with this, it was when I decided to make my the Xehanort, the Seeker of Darkness video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the first video, like when I started thinking, well, if I'm gonna try and do something a little more professional and or serious, like what should I do? And in 2014 was when I had the idea of making a sort of like tribute to the whole Xehanort thing. And so by then I was like, well, maybe I'll like actually make this song. But if I make this song, I don't want it to just be some random webcam video. Like, I want to go all out for this because this is kind of a big deal to me, making this big, 12-minute song that's a tribute to something I'm, extremely passionate about. So that was what made me want to, uh, really kick it into high gear for this video. And originally that was going to be it. It was just, I wanted to do that video, really well shot, well mixed, everything. And I didn't intend to do much more than that, just beyond that. Ooh, voice crack. Beyond that video. And yeah, but then after I posted it, I thought, I don't want that to be it. Like, I don't want to just post this. And then, of course, back then I wasn't getting much attention from my channel at all. If I was lucky, a video would get like 1,000 views at most. And so
I actually remember those days. You were just like, oh, I got 800 views on that video. And at that time too, I was like, dude, that's ridiculous. Because we're both in college at the time, so like,
right.
For us and just doing this stuff, it was like whatever. 800 views, that's more friends than I have in this entire earth. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I posted it, something inside of me, I've always been the type of person that it's like, I don't want to bug people. Like, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to get in anybody's way. But once I put all that work and all that, I put myself into that song and that video, and I spent, my entire spring break editing the video and all that sort of thing. Like, I just put so much into it. I thought, there is no way I'm going to let this video just like be posted, get 800 views, and then fade into, obscurity. So I don't know, the desire for it to be seen because of how much effort I had put into it sort of like overrode my timid nature of like, oh, I don't want to be annoying, So I just completely stopped caring about that. And I was like, what's the worst that could happen if I just shove it in everybody's face? They say no, okay. They say no, and that's the end of it. So any single outlet I could think of that it would be relevant to, I messaged them or emailed them or whatever, and I said, hey, I just made this video. Kingdom Hearts is like pretty popular right now, so it would be relevant to your platform. Would you be willing to share it and just be like, hey, check this video out? And some of them didn't respond, of course. Like, I remember I was so determined, I even asked IGN at the time. Obviously didn't get a response, but I didn't care. It was worth a shot,
Oh yeah.
And yeah, but surprisingly, you'd be surprised how many people will talk to you if you just ask. And yeah, a lot of people actually did write back, and there was even, I can't remember, I think it was Gamnesia. They're like, well, we don't really post like, specific things from people like that, but this is pretty cool, so we'll share it for you. And they did. But yeah, a lot of Kingdom Hearts related places obviously did. Anyway, and it just, more people than I thought were down to do it, and they did, and that's how it got the initial surge of views. And that alone obviously didn't like blow me up or anything, but I think more so what that did was made me realize that like it's not just a matter of you have to sit there and wait for the views to come to you, but if you are willing to put yourself out there and be aggressive, not, rude, of course, but, don't just sit back, like actually put yourself out there and try to, market yourself. It goes a long way, a really long way. And I think that's what started everything, because then once that video got more attention, because I pushed for it to get more attention, Then of course people saw the video and were like, "Oh my goodness, are you gonna make more?" And I thought, well, that was pretty fun. Maybe I will make more. So then I made the Dearly Beloved mashup, and then it just kept snowballing because after I would finish one, I would immediately want to do another one. And then by the time I think I was on like Roxas's theme or something, and I thought, I've made, I don't know, like 5 of these now. This is basically an EP at this point. Why don't I just make an album? And so that's what I did. And then I spent a lot of time making that. And then when that released, that got a lot of, like the feedback was really good. And then I thought, well, why don't I just, I mean, this is just growing and growing and snowballing. Why don't I just keep going? So then I planned a second album and so on and so forth. And it's been growing ever since.
Oh, that's great, man.
Wow.
It's, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Is just persevering through the like fear of failure and then saying, you know what, actually, I don't care if anybody actually likes this thing or not. It brings me joy, so I'm just going to do it no matter what. Dude, yeah, that's awesome. I remember when you were first starting all this, and I was just excited for you. I'm like, dude, like, you know how to play the guitar really well. Just do what you're going to do and don't care. And dude, like, you seriously did not care. And you emailed a lot of people. And I remember seeing, like, when some of the Kingdom Hearts outlets started sharing it, and my mind was blown. I'm like, oh, yeah, he just did it. He just did the thing that, like, I've been too scared to do for a really long time. And interestingly enough, when I started thinking about doing this, I did actually think about you and be like, yeah, he didn't care. Like, why should I care? So in some ways, your little pocket of success there kind of set up this mindset for me to be like, you know what? Hey, like, I don't have any particularly like marketable skills in terms of content creation. Like, I can draw a little bit, or like I can write pretty well, but like neither of those things are particularly viable, as a creative thing for me right now. But like, let's just try it. And so thank you for kind of hitting the volleyball up for me and really allowing me to hit it like, what, 3 years later?
Yeah, man, that means a lot. I actually didn't know I inspired you that much, but that's really cool. It's funny because, I don't know, to me, this is just, I don't know, I feel like such a normal dude. Like, I don't see myself as anything other than just me. And so, people will say stuff like that, or, like, oh my God, your videos, I listen to them all the time when I'm at the gym or something. And it's just like a very surreal feeling. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Dan, so did you have anything you wanted to ask or comment on anything?
Yeah, I mean, it just rings so true that, like, for me, trying to make videos these past 6 months, I can't be a perfectionist when I'm making content. Like, it's better to just get a video out there and start engaging with people than try to make, the best video of all time. And then when you are really proud of like a particular video, I see how that like pushed you to, I guess, reach out and, like you said, not wait for the views to come to you, but like, that you made something good. And I think people are just people are willing to watch good content or listen to good content. And yeah, but it's that balance of like getting started before you can make something that's like really well produced and clean. I know I needed a lot of encouragement before I got started, so it's a balance.
Yeah, that's the other thing that sucks too, especially when it comes to content creation. I'm kind of going off of 2 things you said: the whole perfectionist thing, and then the like needing it to be well made.
Yeah.
Thing. I will say, especially the whole perfectionist thing. Yeah, that's a big one. I had a couple friends in college that struggled with that a lot, where they were, whatever it was, whether it was like producing music or making videos, or whatever their creative hobby might have been, it's a pretty common I don't know, fear, I guess, to want to make something that you consider either perfect or as close to perfect as possible because you don't feel that it's ready for other people to see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so you spend all this time slaving over it, trying to get every little detail, as perfect as possible, but then you never post anything, so nothing ever comes from it. And if you put that amount of, not that it's wrong to put so much passion into something, but if you're putting so much work into, every little thing when you haven't even started your platform yet, it severely holds you back. I had one friend in particular who would just take months to make one single thing to post because he was so obsessed over, every little detail has to be perfect. Every little thing has to be exactly the way I want it. And he would keep changing his mind, like, oh, I went back and this thing isn't the way I want, so I'm going to change it. Then he would spend another week trying to fix that. And it's a never ending cycle. And I had a professor in college who said, when it comes to projects like that, and this is a sort of, I don't know, negative way to look at it, but it makes sense if you think about it. Like, you don't finish a project, you give up on it. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
eventually you have to let go. Like, you can't, like, if you're a perfectionist and you want everything to be down to the exact detail, eventually you just have to be like, okay, it's done. I'm just going to post it and that's the end of it. Because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in this cycle of it's not ready yet. It has to be perfect, but it may never be perfect to you. And if that's the case, then you're never going to post anything. And you have to get over that sort of like fear of it not being good enough and just let it go. And so
Right.
that's a
I mean,
big lesson I learned early on.
yeah, even now, like every pretty much every week that I'm working on a video, there will be something that I know I could have done better or that I know I could change, but it just gets to that point where I say, "Oh, this is I mean, it's good enough. It's good enough to post and it's good enough to be enjoyed by other people." And I mean, it's not like I don't know, I don't have like a list of things that can be wrong and still be okay to post. But do you have like a thought process that you go through as you think about, what makes a particular piece of content postable? When does it get to that point?
I've never really thought about it. I guess it depends on what you're making, especially because for me, I've only ever, at least on my YouTube channel, I've only ever obviously made guitar playthrough videos. And so a lot of it just comes down to, seeing how other people make theirs. And then based on that, I think, okay, so, they're editing their videos a certain way. They're adding certain like post process effects and stuff.
Hmm.
It's sort of like keeping your finger on the pulse of like what is considered not necessarily acceptable, but like what is generating excitement from other people. And then based on that, like, okay, how do I do that myself based on what I know how to do? Because obviously you're not going to be able to, come right out the gate doing what, someone with hundreds of thousands of subscribers is able to do with, um, their years of experience and everything. But just based on what people who are doing similar things to you are doing, um, I usually just take inspiration from other content creators. And then based on what I'm seeing, it's like, okay, well, they're doing this and they're not doing that. And so once once I feel like it's sort of in league with that sort of style that I'm seeing from other people, but I'm not directly copying necessarily, then it's like, okay, I feel like this sort of fits the genre that I'm going for with my content. And so I don't know, it's mostly just keeping tabs on, the industry, I guess you could say.
You got to look at other people, and I think that's always been the most important thing. Because I think there's a big difference between like creating like original artistic content and then like creating commercial content. And so like you have to look at who else is putting out stuff. and you have to kind of see where the bar's set. I mean, you can come in below or over the bar, but like you need to be close to it in order to be relevant. So kind of, Garrick, what do you do if like 3 months from now the whole like YouTube music content scene changes? I mean, like what do you think you do with your channel if the whole format and the people like that you're looking at innovated and pushed forward, essentially leaving you behind? Like, what would you do?
You adapt. I mean, unless it's something that is just completely unfeasible, like I wouldn't have the software or something to be able to do it. I guess even because even then you could just get the software if you had the means to do so. But like if it completely changed, I guess it would really come down to a matter of would I want to follow the trend, and if the answer is no, then I don't know. It would be completely up in the air at that point. I would have to figure that out in the moment of when that
Mm.
happened. But, I think as long as it wasn't too drastic of a change, um, then obviously I would, you know, you don't, follow the trend in the sense of copying other people, but if the format is changing and it's nothing, super crazy, then it wouldn't be, you know, out of the realm of possibility to do that. But like I said, if it's something that's like a huge shift, then at that point it comes down to, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to follow this trend, or are you going to go in your own separate direction? And then at that point it's really a matter of innovation, I guess.
I guess on that too. For those of you who don't know, Kingdom Hearts 3 is kind of the capstone on the main series, from what I understand. And so like until the next Kingdom Hearts game comes out, there's not going to be more music. So what are you going to do to kind of keep your content coming? I know that there's still some stuff you haven't done yet in terms of the music, but like, what's your next direction?
Well, so I do have, so I've made 2 albums so far, and then this was kind of always my plan from the beginning, but the I am making a third one, and that will mostly consist of songs from the recently released Kingdom Hearts 3. But then of course, what comes after that, because who knows when we're getting the next thing. So I've started thinking of um, you know, ideas for that. And one of the things, and this is where, having social media comes in handy. I'm a lot more personable on Twitter, so I ask questions to the fans a lot on Twitter, and um, two different things I've brought up, and this is mostly just because it's something I'm interested in, and not necessarily like I'm just doing whatever would get the most views or attention or whatever. But the first thing I proposed was I've always wanted to do something like this, even back when I was deciding what I wanted to cover, and I chose Kingdom Hearts. One of the things I also thought of covering was like Tolkien music, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
still to this day that runs through my head. So I was like, well, I mean, that's not super relevant, but I don't care. That would be fun. And now that I have the audience that I've grown from, this thing, I have people who will listen regardless of whether it's relevant to the times or not. So I could do that. But then, luckily, I'm really into Final Fantasy, and the 7 remake happens to be coming out soon. So I've already talked about, um, I'll probably not make a full album because I don't think I have enough time right now for making that many songs, but at least an EP uh, for that. And that would hit the bullet points of something I would want to do and also be relevant to what's going on right now in the game industry. But then one thing I thought of was I really want to make, my own like original stuff, like not covers of anything, like my own songs written by myself. And I thought, well, obviously there are going to be, a couple people who will listen because they just like the way I play in general. But I sort of want like a transition into that. I don't want it to just like be a hard cut. So I thought, is there a way to sort of like, I don't know, ease that idea into it? And so I had an idea on the third album I'm making right now. I thought a good sort of like test for that would be, why don't I make one song that's entirely my own and it's not a cover, but it's still meant to be like dedicated to Kingdom Hearts? Because now that we've gone through the entire like saga up until now, because obviously the series isn't over, but we've ended the current story arc as of right now. We have this whole picture that's finished, basically. And so now we can look at the whole thing as like one narrative. And I thought, well, we have the whole thing now, so why don't I like sort of what I did with the Xehanort medley, make like a tribute to it, but instead of it being covers, I could make my own original tune that sort of like pays homage to this thing that just finally ended after, 17 years. And I thought that would be a cool way to sort of introduce people to like what I sound like when I'm not covering a song, but it's still in the vein of what they're used to. And then if they're interested in that one song, it's like, hey, I also have this whole album of original music coming out if you liked that one song. And so, yeah, I've been playing around with ideas.
I mean, the beauty of the internet is that you've got metrics for all of that stuff now. So, like, you can see your like-dislike ratios on your original stuff. You can see your Spotify plays or wherever you're hosting, your third album with that song. And so that's really good. And I think, too, if you wanted to, branch out and have your own stuff, it's very easy to start another channel, but have it be, like, your sister channel.
Right.
And so, like, you can have your Garrick Wheeler video game covers stuff, and then you can have like your personal projects. And I think like that is the beauty of the day and age that we're in. Is you want to do something else, just make a different platform, connect it to your current one, and you're ready to rock and roll. So good on you, man. I was actually wondering when you're going to start doing some of your own stuff, because like I think early on when you started posting your stuff on social media, you did do a little bit of your own stuff here and there, right?
Yeah, I think there were 2 songs that were original, but yeah, that was that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but well, I'm honestly really proud of you, man. I think it's good that you're constantly looking forward, because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of video game content people, get kind of stuck when their thing ends. I mean, if you look at Skill Up, he started off doing like the Division content, and when he decided that the Division was dead, he had a couple months where he didn't know what to do, so he just had to like transition over to doing other video game stuff, and like his channel is completely transformed into something different. But then there's been a lot of people who are like Destiny YouTubers who just died when Destiny 2 came out and it was awful. Some of them have persisted, but like, working with video game content is probably the most volatile thing you could really be doing on YouTube, and it's good that you're kind of staying on your toes and not getting comfortable, because I think that's what ends up killing a lot of content creators. Is they get lulled into this sense of security when they've had that taste of success, and then like, oh, my thing's not relevant anymore, so now I'm also down the toilet.
Right.
So kind of turning that question then that I asked Garrick over to Dan, and you're waiting for your heyday to come with Beyond Good and Evil, so what do you think you're going to do in the interim, Dan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as you guys were talking, I'm just like, man, I really hope Beyond Good and Evil 2 is a great game. I really hope it just knocks it out of the park. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And I mean, the early stuff, that's what I'm thinking. I think it's really going to be a great game. It seems like a passion project for Michel Ancel. But to your question, what am I going to do beforehand? Part of that is, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to fill up all this time. The other part is I am just trying to like look at anything that might possibly be relevant and then apply it to Beyond Good and Evil 2. I'm doing that with different games. Actually, after this podcast is over, I'm going to work on a video that is going to be talking about Sekiro and how I quit playing that game, and I don't want Beyond Good and Evil 2 to be anything like Sekiro. So,
oh really?
Yeah, it's just so hard.
I think you're in the minority of people who don't like the game,
No,
which
I
is
mean,
okay. Which is okay. Just defend
it's
your
a
position.
it's a good game. It's a good game, but it's like, man, it's just so hard. And like, why would somebody want their life to be harder? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm just trying to like look at other things relevant in gaming news and stuff like that, and connect it back to Beyond Good and Evil 2,
Mhm.
and then speculate about the news that we've gotten so far in the game, and just sort of try to figure out, okay, what could the game really consist of and look like if we know this, this, and this based on what they've told us.
Well, I think one good example of that was the video you just put out. Was it earlier this week? The God of War and Beyond Good and Evil 2 one.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the things that Dan did was he took that God of War documentary that. Oh gosh, what's the studio that does God of War?
That's Santa Monica Studios. It's a
Yeah.
Sony studio.
Yeah, so Santa Monica put out that documentary about how they made the game, and he kind of did this documentary overview style, kind of taking pieces of what they were talking about and kind of applying that to kind of patterns that he's seeing in like the Beyond Good and Evil development. And I think that was something that came off really, really good. I felt like the video was really tight, and I was wondering how he would continue to kind of keep up that trend, because I think that would be like a good, every so often video to kind of put out to juxtapose. I mean, I guess on that point, you're doing the Sekiro one. Do you have any ideas past that, or are you still kind of working on that idea?
Yeah, I mean, so it goes forward and backward. Like, I'm looking at new games, and then I'm also looking at old games, especially that line up with the genre that the new Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to be. So, like, another cult classic is System Shock 2.
Oh yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but I know it's like a famous RPG. And so I'm thinking I'm gonna go back and play that game, and then sort of make a video comparing um, it with the original, and then looking forward to what Beyond Good and Evil 2 could like learn from that cult classic. Another example of that would be Deus Ex. Kind of falls in that same category. And then new stuff that's coming up is like the Outer Worlds. In terms of like other games, I'm trying to incorporate other titles, and my thought process behind that at the same time is that other people who are interested in those things might accidentally stumble on one of my videos because they're interested in the topic that I'm comparing it to. I don't know how much of that has actually worked, but that's the idea.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think as you pick up steam, that'll become more of a relevant thing. In the beginning, like it's basically like doing indirect search engine optimization, basically. So like you're
Right.
using those keywords, and like you might not see anything for like the first 3 or 4 months, but you might suddenly get a avalanche, so to speak, of engagement on it, just because someone might be searching God of War, or like maybe there's some God of War news that comes out, and they're like, oh, well, what's this video? And then they kind of fall down the rabbit trail. So like I think that's really a good thing. I thought too, if you're open to some ideas, kind of on that, you had mentioned that you were going to look at stuff in similar genre, and I think it'd be really interesting with your academic background, like if you're willing to do maybe some longer form videos of doing like genre commentary. So like picking apart what we know about Beyond Good and Evil 2 already, and juxtaposing it with like your experience of, let's just say, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and kind of juxtaposing like the elements that you're seeing of that like dystopian futurism in your Beyond Good and Evil 2 content so far. And I mean, you're kind of doing that already, but maybe just really buckling down and doing some of those genre studies. I think that there is definitely a big hunger on YouTube for like academic light content. So
Yeah.
if you have the kind of time, I know that would take a lot more time. But if you did want to do something like that, definitely look at Games is Lit and some of Skill Up's reviews, because they do tend to do that more pseudo academic light kind of content.
Right, and even Games as Lit has some good videos on Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, yeah, he
I didn't
does.
know that.
Yeah, and along those same lines, I mean, like just thinking about like a video game, it's really such a rich art form. People were talking about on the Reddit page just different influences that science fiction, like in general, experienced as Beyond Good and Evil was coming out, the original, and then other sci-fi movies as well. And now I'm forgetting the name of the artist, but like this one artist had like a major influence on so many things sci-fi fantasy, um, where he had just influenced the way that people think about the worlds because of the art that he had done. Both, I think, majorly in the form of comics and stuff like that. But it just sort of like seeped into movies and video games and all these different mediums. So like digging digging deep for video games and like seeing different kinds of connections. There's just so much there, and so I've thought about going and traveling down that rabbit hole as well, just like from a I guess influences from art and different things like that.
I think that'd be a great thing. I would enjoy the heck out of that content. Um, because I mean, like the news roundups are cool, and like doing the documentary style juxtapositions. But like that's the kind of stuff that I come on YouTube to hopefully find, and I've been seeing a lot less of it again because of all of the big like just news bombs hitting like every other day now.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, dude, hit that while you can, because I think that's a void that is quickly opening up right now. So
Yeah.
you could even hit up Games is Lit, see if he can give you any insight, or if he can give you insight into his process. Maybe we could even get him on the
Yeah.
show. That would be fun.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Garrick, do you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I think you guys covered everything pretty well with everything we just discussed.
So, what do you guys think about how you're doing right now with your content production? I mean, do you think that you're getting it out at a nice pace? Do you feel like you need to be more consistent? What are kind of your engagement goals right now? We can start with Dan and then kick over to Garrick.
Yeah, a goal for me recently was just to hit 100 subscriber point, and I was hoping that E3 would sort of help bring that about. But as some of you might know, Beyond Good and Evil 2 did not show up at E3 this past year, and so there was still a major drop of news, but it wasn't as significant as I was hoping. So that's still something that I'm shooting for, and it's encouraging to see like a pretty regular um, new subscriber rate. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but I've consistently gotten more subscribers. It's probably been about 8 to 12 a month. So I think just to consistently put out content that's thought provoking, meaningful, well done. I've got some things that I'm looking forward to, videos that I'm looking forward to in the coming month that I think will be good. I think they're going to be really great, and hopefully it will catch some traction with the upcoming hit record that's going to be going on. And so it is music related. Yeah, did I cover the question? I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
I think like you're sounding like you're content with kind of hitting that like probably 15 to 20 subscribers a month mark. Hopefully getting above that with your new content, but
Yeah.
like it will start snowballing. You kind of have to eclipse a certain point though. And that's been something I've been seeing a lot on Instagram and stuff. Is like I'll post my stuff and I'll get a couple followers each time, but it takes until you're getting into the couple hundreds before it really starts to snowball. Or in the case of
Hmm.
Garrick, you just put out one really awesome track and everyone dies, and then
Yeah.
you just get like 1,000 subscribers overnight, basically.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, Dan, your time is coming. It's okay. But I think also too, you're playing it good because you're not expecting to like have overnight success, and Garrick wasn't either, which is why it paid off for him so well.
Hmm.
So like if you keep plugging at it and keep being regular, I mean, your current base, the people who are actively watching, commenting, and stuff like those people will continue to, um, word of mouth, which will help definitely. Have you been posting your stuff on the Reddit, or have you found someone who'd be willing to post your stuff on Reddit for you?
Yeah, I have been regularly posting stuff on Reddit, and then every now and then I'll post like um, a separate discussion like about the video so that we could engage with the community and get their ideas out there and engage with some of the questions that I ask in a video. And so Reddit has been like my main um, partner medium that I enjoy using because you can be a little bit more long-winded there, and things get recorded and they don't move around too much, and you can go back and read stuff. It's a little bit slower paced, and um, it's easier to kind of jump in and see where the conversation is at.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, so I am really liking Reddit. I'm trying to figure out like, do I stay on a weekly consistent basis right now? I'm leaning towards going to like a bi-monthly posting schedule just because news is so light. And I think some of these other like academic light projects like you were talking about, I think they just take more time because I actually have to like create stuff. I'm not just talking about stuff that's already, being talked about, whether if it's actual news about the game.
Hmm.
Um, but so those are harder projects.
Yeah. I think that too. I mean, if you wanted to go to that bi-monthly posting, what you could do then is you can work on those longer form videos. And if you really wanted to kind of shoot for the moon, I mean, you've got this podcast that you'd be on that would like kind of help fill in that posting gap. But then
Hmm.
also, you can have those longer form videos, but like breaking them up into 2 or 3 videos, so like kind of doing a part 1, part 2, part 3. Then you're starting to kind of achieve again that weekly posting, but like you're just cutting up your content into meaningful chunks. But like sometimes it's hard to get people to watch an entire 40-minute video or 30-minute video that you've made. So why
Oh
not
yeah.
cut it up
Yeah.
into 10-minute chunks or 7-minute chunks, and kind of
Right.
hit your average video time. And I think people would dig that a lot. And then you're fulfilling your weekly criteria, but you're not busting your hump trying to come up with like original content every week, especially as someone who doesn't necessarily want to do it full time, someone who enjoys doing it on the side, but like, you have other things you want to do too. So I think that would be a good direction for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to like hear that the slower pace is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful not to like get into like overreaching or just seeming like you're making content just to make something.
Right.
Because content should always be an exchange of value, right? Like we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about stuff, and we're trying to create something that's our listeners are going to be able to synthesize, information from. But if we make that too hard, or if we're just sitting here talking like really surface level about nothing, like that also rubs people the wrong way. Um, so like if you're posting every week and it's just like, no news this week. Here's a fun little tiddly bit
Hmm.
about Beyond Good and Evil 1 that everyone already knows. Isn't that cool?
Right.
Like people are gonna not want to watch your channel because it's gonna feel like you're trying too hard. Um, One thing too, if you really just run out of information and there's like a drought over the holidays, I mean, Let's Plays, just streaming Beyond Good and Evil 1, like you know, those are good ways too. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
we're coming up on the like about 45, 50 minutes. So if we want, I'll kick it over to Garrick for the last 10 minutes here, and then we can kind of close this thing out if you guys are good.
If I remember correctly, we were talking about like engagement and how we feel about uh the rate at which we've been posting content and stuff. And I know as of right now, I've been in a dry spell only because of the big change that has happened in my life recently. After I just graduated from my university in May, and then I packed everything up and moved across the country to the West Coast, and I'm living over there now. So I haven't had the time or like the organization in what I'm doing to, you know, put set time aside to make stuff in the recent weeks. But um, so yeah, I'm a little behind lately, but that's that's just a
Right.
temporary thing because life got in the way. But if that weren't the case, then no, I think I would feel totally fine about my output. Usually, what I do is like, as far as actual videos go, I kind of tend to post like I'll make a bunch of videos and then I have them all sitting on my computer, and then I'll sort of schedule like, okay, I'm gonna go this one and then this one. I usually put out once I have a bunch of content, I'll post like one every week, usually. And if I have a lot, sometimes I'll do two in one week. I don't really have enough content to, be posting like every other day or something. But um, yeah, I mean, when it's normal output, I have a lot of stuff to share. Then yeah, it's usually like a weekly output, which I'm pretty content with. That's like I said about, keeping up with industry trends. That's usually as far as the music genre of YouTube goes. Weekly videos are pretty much the standard. So, yeah, aside from right now when I haven't posted anything in a couple weeks or months, that's usually what I do. So I'm pretty content with that. And then yeah, I mean, when I'm not posting videos, I'm updating people on, Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So it's never like I just disappear off the face of the planet. It's like they know what's going on.
In terms of engagement, I mean, you got those 4,000 subscribers. Like, how many comments, how many like active followers do you usually generate when you post a video? I mean, just give or take. It's not an exact science here, but
I mean, obviously it depends on the video whether it's, more or less popular, depending on the song or the content of the video. But I'd say on average, um, I don't know, I'd say, your average video in after like a week or so of being posted usually has a couple thousand views. So like, I don't know, 2, 3 thousand. So most of them are watching it. And then yeah, most of the comments will come in the first like 2, 3 days. I don't really keep track of the amount, but if off the top of my head, it's probably like 30, 40 comments on average. And then I don't really pay attention to the like to dislike ratio, like the amount of likes. So I couldn't comment on that, but I know I it's it's a good amount as far as I can remember off the top of my head.
yeah, I mean, I never see any exuberant dislikes. It's usually like one or two because there's always that one guy who's just like Kingdom Hearts and just or just like the guy who's like, "Oh man, I wanted that to be orchestral. I hate metal." And you're like, "All right, man, get out
Yeah.
of here." I think to close out, what's your guys' like guest wish list? Like, if you could pick three people that like you actively engage with on social media or like make content that you really enjoy, like, who are those three people that you'd want on the show?
Hmm. And we're talking like anybody at all?
Yeah, like anybody.
Hmm. Okay, I know off the top of my head for sure one person I regularly engage with on social media is HMK, if you've ever heard of him. Um, yeah, I engage with him a lot. He would be fun to have on here talking about because he's very, very, uh, much experienced, very much a veteran content creator. Not that he stopped, but like he knows his way around the block. I'm trying to think of two others. I don't know. I can't think of three for some reason. I can only think of one right this second. Dan, do you have any while I'm thinking?
Yeah, I think so. If we can just be, totally wild and out there. Hugh Jackman. Aaron Cairo.
Get Jack Black on the show. He has a YouTube channel.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's get
Jack Black.
All right, so Hugh Jackman, Jack Black.
Hugh Jackman. Well, I won't count Jack Black as one of mine, but Aaron Cairo from Braille Skateboarding. That would be cool. And oh shoot, I had three. Oh, Rhett Shull. He has like a guitarist centered vlogging kind of channel, which is really interesting.
Okay. My three. So like my pinnacle guest would be Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's just like he's kind of sort of a motivational speaker, but he's also not. Like he's just super real. And
yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, I mean he posts content constantly. And he's kind of the guy who got me in the mindset. I'm like, oh, like I can't just sit down and do this. Like, I think the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge was like, he's like, you got a smartphone, you've got something to talk about, you can record a podcast. I'm like, oh shoot, you're right. Like I keep sitting here thinking like, okay, how do I start? Like, what do I got to do? What do I got to know? And then I heard that and I'm like, yeah, all right. So I'm going to trade some album art for a mic from someone that I'm going to be interviewing here in a week. His name is Ray Nicholas. His stage name is Nick Sky. It'll be a good interview. So I did his album art for a second album, Happy Sad, and then traded me his old mic. So that's how we got here with my equipment. So Gary Vee would be like my full circle, like, yep, I did it. I did the thing and I get to say, hey, like you're the guy who pushed me over the edge. I think a more immediate person that I would really love to have on the show would be Girlfriend Reviews, actually. If you guys seen that channel.
Oh.
So they came out like 8 months ago and they already have 500,000 subscribers.
Really?
Like,
I didn't know they were that young.
Yeah, 8 months ago.
That's impressive.
It's absolutely ludicrous. So I would love to have both of them on the show and pick their brains. And then like I think my third wish list would be definitely Skill Up. I think he offers a lot of really good advice. I've talked to him like a little bit on Twitter here and there, but I think that he'd be a great guy to have on the show because I think he's a little bit more in our vein where he wants to do like content that's really meaningful for people. Not necessarily like the content for content creators, which is what we're shooting for, but something in that realm. So like those are my three. Vaynerchuk is going to be probably a couple of years down the road, but I will bug him often until it happens. I probably won't do that. I'm too nervous for that.
We could probably get Hugh Jackman in a year.
Oh, for sure.
I definitely agree with Skill Up. I think he's one of the better content creators out there as far as like what would be in our vein. But I just thought of another one who is very similar to Skill Up. I'm gonna guess, but I think his YouTube name is like ACG. He also does.
The guy who does all the reviews. He's really good.
Yeah. He would be another good one.
Yeah, he would be fun. I mean, I think we would have to probably coach some of these guys and be like, hey, we're doing like a family friendly podcast.
Yeah,
so like
that's true.
keep the bombs to a minimum here.
But something unique that he does that really interests me is he's got this like mentoring program that you can become a part of through his Patreon.
Oh, really?
And so he works with other YouTube creators and other content creators in general. He I think he mentors Mr. Matty Plays, if you guys know that channel.
I've heard of him. I don't think I've actually sat down and watched anything.
Yeah, so it's just, I think he would have an interesting mind to pick because he works with people to help create content.
I could get on board with that. So now that I've asked that, guess what homework you guys have? Start sending some emails.
Oh yeah,
or tweets or whatever.
nice.
I've been emailing a couple people. I haven't heard anything back. Yeah, I think we got our work cut out for us, really. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, other than this was fun and I'm excited to see where this goes. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it.
Well, for whoever is listening, thank you for consuming the pilot episode of Victory or Death. I'm your host, Elijah McDougall, and I hope that you guys have an excellent week.